Right, so the first comma of Article 3 was called formal equality, so just recognising formally that we are equal socially, so in social dignity, and also in front of the law. The second comma is called substantial equality, the substance of equality, making equality happen, if you like. This is when the state puts equality into practice. So it starts like this. È compito della Repubblica rimuovere gli ostacoli di ordine economico e sociale che, limitando di fatto la libertà e l'eguaglianza dei cittadini, impediscono il pieno sviluppo della persona umana e l'effettiva partecipazione di tutti i lavoratori all'organizzazione politica, economica e sociale del paese. So here we can see that the Republic has a role. By a Republic we mean the state and everything that's public, any public body. And they have a role of removing these obstacles, which are social or economic, to create, which, to give us more freedom and equality, and which impede our full development. Now, what obstacles are we talking about here? That's the first question that comes to mind. So we're talking about obstacles. The economic or social obstacles could be maybe education and health. Education is an obstacle which can impede our full development, both an economic and a social obstacle. By educating us, the state integrates us into the group, helps us integrate into a group and helps us share the values of the group and maybe understand the culture of the group. So they're integrating us into society. And, we can see that a lot in Italy. We see that education is valued highly. You do an extra year of education in the high school, in more than in England. The degrees are 2 years longer, the masters 1 year longer. Even the pensioners do a third third age of university. So education is very valued. You have support teachers for disabled. Always the disabled are integrated into a class. If possible, they're integrated, because these social obstacles are to be overcome. Okay, so this education is very important. The health also is guaranteed. Later on in the Constitution, it is seen as a guaranteed right to be brought back to health. And if you think about it, it is one of the obstacles, an obstacle that could impede us from becoming, from working with others or being a student or rejoining in some way society. So health is very important in education, and we are guaranteed it. That means that whatever it takes, it's not important how much the medicine costs. The state must do everything possible to bring the person back to health. We've seen with hepatitis C, the drugs, the medicine can cost like hundreds of thousands, and this went to court one point, where the state said they couldn't afford it, the court said you must, and they have to pay whatever it takes. And this is a huge cost. This article is the start, the establishing of the social state. And it shows that the state must be big and really present, really intervene when necessary to help the citizens, to help them, bring them to their freedom and equality. I think at the time when they wrote this, we can imagine that Italy was devastated socially, people didn't have work, and there weren't any institutions to bring this social cohesion. These are social rights. These rights, we talked before in Article 2 about inviolable rights of the freedom to be myself, to be an individual and have my individuality. These are social rights given to us by the state to help us integrate into the society, into the social system. But they cost a lot of money, and it does mean you need a big state, which the big problem is, you need a high tax. Italy is one of the highest tax systems in the world. And it does limit the choices, the options of an Italian government. An Italian government must do this regardless. Maybe they prefer a more liberal state, a less social state, where the citizens do for themselves their education, private education, private health. But this isn't an option in Italy. We find in Italy the public health is always better than the private health. In England it's the opposite. The same with the schools. The public schools are, the state schools are better than the private schools because they must remove all these obstacles. They must be better, the best possible. That's one difference in England, that the public sector is better than the private, whereas it's the opposite in England. And I would say also the difference here in England is that the politicians have more options. They can focus on reducing taxation and maybe making the social state much smaller. There is that option. We do have a welfare state in England. This was introduced after the war, the Second World War, but it is an option for the government to save money, reducing this to the minimum, whereas in Italy it's not an option according to the constitution. This is a founding principle. We even now, there's talk a lot about social cohesion, especially when there's a crisis. At the moment we've got the crisis of COVID, and maybe an economic crisis to follow, and we've got a new Prime Minister, Draghi, that says first thing we do is social cohesion. We must do things to bring people together, create solidarity. This article itself is about solidarity. The schools, the health service, these are acts of solidarity and creating bonds with people. When you integrate students into a school, they are creating relationships and living experiences and creating a certain solidarity with each other. The second part says della persona umana è l'effettiva partecipazione di tutti i lavoratori all'organizzazione politica, economica e sociale del paese. So here they talk about workers, participating. So this act of integrating people, whether it's health or it's education, so we can participate in the socio-economic and political aspects of this big project we call Italy. This part demonstrates the socialness of these rights. The purpose of these rights are so that we are all workers in Italy. That's why it calls us lavoratori. Everybody is a worker. All the bosses and politicians, they're all workers. And the idea is to bring us to a position where we can contribute and we can participate, and we are included in this project, in this community, in this pulling together in one direction.